Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you opened Instagram and actually felt better about your life? Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You're not weak for comparing yourself to others. Your brain was literally built to do it. And that changes everything about how we should deal with it. We are living in the most comparison-saturated era in human history. Every scroll is a highlight reel. Every post is a curated performance. And your brain, ancient, wired for survival, has no idea how to handle that kind of exposure. Welcome to Calm Science, where we take real psychology and neuroscience and make it actually useful for your everyday life. No jargon walls, no lecture vibes, just honest conversations about how your mind works. Today, we're breaking down the actual brain science behind social comparison, why it happens, what it does to you chemically, and more importantly, how you can work with your brain instead of constantly fighting it.
So let's start somewhere you probably recognize. You wake up, grab your phone, and in the first 5 minutes of your morning, you've already seen someone's new car, someone's vacation in Bali, and someone's abs that you're pretty sure aren't fully human. And just like that, before you've even had coffee, your day already has a quiet shadow hanging over it. That's not a character flaw. That's a deeply human response. Back in 1954, a social psychologist named Leon Festinger proposed what's now called social comparison theory. His core idea was simple but profound. Humans don't evaluate themselves in isolation. We measure ourselves against others. This was useful once. In a small tribe or village, comparing yourself to the people around you gave you real, accurate feedback. Am I contributing enough? Am I skilled enough to survive? The comparison was grounded in reality because your reference group was people you actually knew. But here's where it gets interesting and honestly a little dark. The comparison mechanism in your brain doesn't know the difference between your neighbor and a celebrity with a team of stylists, a personal chef, and a ring light. It treats every reference point the same. So your brain compares you to everyone as if they're your peers.
Researchers call this upward social comparison, when you measure yourself against someone you perceive as doing better. And studies consistently show that frequent upward comparison is directly linked to lower self-esteem, increased anxiety, and higher rates of depression. Your brain is running ancient software in an environment it was never designed for. Now, here's the neurochemistry that makes this loop so hard to break. When you see someone appearing more successful, more attractive, or more put together than you, your brain's reward system activates, but not in a good way. Your ventral striatum, which processes social rewards and status, lights up with a signal that roughly translates to, "I'm behind, I need to catch up." This triggers cortisol, your primary stress hormone, which puts your nervous system on mild alert. And here's the cruel irony. The very act of scrolling to feel connected or validated actually keeps your stress system activated. You're calming yourself with the exact thing that's agitating you. But wait, stay with me here, because this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. Your brain doesn't just passively compare, it also chooses who to compare itself to, and that choice is almost never random. Research shows that we predominantly make upward comparisons, looking at people who appear better off, far more often than downward comparisons.
And on social media, this is amplified to an almost absurd degree. You're not comparing your full life to someone else's full life. You're comparing your bloopers reel, your anxious Tuesday, your messy apartment, your 3 a.m. self-doubts to someone else's best moments, filtered and captioned for maximum impact. The University of Pennsylvania ran a study where they limited participants to just 30 minutes of social media per day. After 3 weeks, those participants showed significant decreases in loneliness, anxiety, and depression. Not elimination, just reduction. 30 minutes. That's the lever. That's how sensitive this system is. So, if comparison is this wired into us, and it is, does that mean we're just stuck? Are we just supposed to white-knuckle our way through every scroll? Not exactly, because the research also shows something hopeful. Not all comparison is destructive. When used consciously, comparison can be a tool for motivation rather than a source of pain. The difference lies in how you compare, not just whether you do it.
Psychologists call the destructive kind the contrast effect, where you see a gap between yourself and someone else, feel the distance, and interpret that distance as proof of your inadequacy. But there's another mode called the assimilation effect, where you see someone succeeding at something you care about, feel inspired rather than threatened, and use that as a direction rather than a verdict. The shift isn't automatic. It requires something your prefrontal cortex has to actively do, which is reframe the reference. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" you train yourself to ask, "What does their path tell me about what's possible for someone like me?" That one question rewires the emotional output of the same exact brain process. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Theodore Roosevelt once said that comparison is the thief of joy, and he was right, but only when comparison is pointed outward and backward, when it becomes a verdict on your worth rather than a signal about your direction.
You are not behind. You are on your own timeline, running your own race, carrying things that nobody else can see. The person you're comparing yourself to is also comparing themselves to someone, and that someone is comparing themselves to another. It's a chain with no finish line. The most grounded, genuinely content people I've ever read about, and the research backs this up, are the ones who made one quiet decision. They stopped measuring their insides against everyone else's outsides. They turned the lens inward, not to judge, but to understand, not to criticize, but to listen. Your worth is not a ranking. It was never meant to be. And the moment you stop outsourcing your sense of value to a feed that was designed, literally engineered to make you feel like you're missing something, you take back something very important: your own attention, your own story, your own rhythm. That's what this channel is called Calm Science for, because calm isn't passive, it's a practice. It's what happens when you understand yourself well enough to stop being hijacked by systems that don't have your best interest at heart.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you something personal. Think about the last time you caught yourself comparing. Was it to a friend, a stranger online, a former version of yourself? Drop it in the comments below. You don't have to go into detail, even just one word, because I think when we name it, it loses some of its grip on us, and I want to know what's showing up for you. If this episode gave you even one new way of thinking about comparison, if it made something click that's been foggy for a while, come join the Calm Science community. Hit subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the kind of psychology that actually helps you live better. Not perfectly, better. I'll see you in the next one.